In 1947, Elizabeth Short's body was discovered in an empty lot in Los Angeles. The crime scene was horrific, but investigators immediately noticed something strange. There was virtually no blood where her body had been found. Elizabeth had been killed somewhere else. For nearly 80 years, no one could prove where. Then investigators entered an old Los Angeles motel. Behind layers of newer walls, they say they found a concealed section of the room, and inside it, blood. Not one stain. Nearly 40 suspected blood samples. The team investigating them now believes this may be the room where Elizabeth Short was murdered. But there is one massive problem. None of it has publicly been proven to belong to her. And until it is, one of America's most famous unsolved murders remains exactly that, unsolved. On the morning of January 15th, 1947, a woman walking with her young daughter noticed what she initially thought was a mannequin lying near a sidewalk in Los Angeles. It wasn't. The victim was a young woman whose body had been severely mutilated and cut in two. No identification was found with her, but investigators had fingerprints. Los Angeles sent those prints to the FBI using a primitive image transmission system called sound photo. Within less than an hour, they had a name. Elizabeth Short, 22 years old. Her fingerprints were already in federal records from a previous job application and an earlier arrest for underage drinking. Her name would soon be overshadowed by another one, the Black Dahlia. 6 days before her body was discovered, Elizabeth had arrived in Los Angeles with a man named Robert Manley. Manley later told investigators that he left her at the Biltmore Hotel on the evening of January 9th. After that, Elizabeth's final movements became one of the central mysteries of the case. Where did she go? Who did she meet? And how did she end up dead 6 days later? Manley was investigated. He was eventually released. And investigators were left with an enormous hole in Elizabeth's timeline. A missing period between the last reliable sighting and the morning her body appeared beside Norton Avenue. Then the investigation became even stranger. Days after Elizabeth was found, an envelope connected to the case arrived at the Los Angeles Examiner. Inside were personal belongings associated with Elizabeth, including identification documents and an address book. The sender had attempted to eliminate fingerprints. Other communications followed. Police and the FBI examined fingerprints from at least one anonymous letter for a possible match. There wasn't one in FBI records. Meanwhile, tips flooded in. People confessed. Suspects were questioned. Doctors and medical students were investigated because of the way Elizabeth's body had been cut. Yet none of it produced a killer. And beneath all of those leads was a simpler question investigators still couldn't answer. Where had Elizabeth actually been murdered? The location where Elizabeth was discovered could tell investigators how her body had been left, but it couldn't explain everything that happened before that. The absence of blood was crucial. The FBI's own historical account says it indicated that Elizabeth had been killed somewhere else. Somewhere there should have been another scene. A room, a building, a location containing evidence of what happened before her body was moved. For decades, that place remained unknown, and without it, investigators were missing an entire crime scene. Then, almost 80 years later, a filmmaker says he received a tip. Jeff Thomas, director of an upcoming project called Deconstructing Dahlia, says the breakthrough began with the son of a detective connected to the original investigation. According to Thomas, the man shared information his father had told him and had once asked him never to repeat. Thomas has not publicly revealed the complete tip, but he says the investigation that followed eventually pointed his team toward an old Los Angeles motel. The location still operates today, and according to the production team, records, witness accounts, and previously unavailable investigative material repeatedly pointed toward the same property. In 2022, members of the team went inside one particular room. They weren't expecting an 80-year-old crime scene to still exist. Then, a criminalist pulled at a loose section near a wall. Behind it were more layers. The room had been covered over. The team returned, and they began taking the room apart. They say the process took more than 60 hours. According to the investigators, beneath newer construction, they reached older surfaces that had been concealed for decades. And that's where they say they began detecting blood. The team says evidence appeared in areas that corresponded with descriptions found in historical witness material. Eventually, senior criminalist Leslie Thompson said they documented close to 40 blood samples. She described the findings as consistent with a major bloodshed event. The samples were reportedly submitted for advanced DNA testing because of their age. If even one of those samples could be conclusively tied to Elizabeth Short, the implications would be enormous. For the first time, investigators could potentially have physical evidence from the place where she died. But that word, if, changes everything. There has been no publicly announced DNA match connecting the motel blood to Elizabeth Short. Public reporting has not established that every reported sample is human. It has not publicly established when the blood was deposited. And the Los Angeles Police Department has not announced that the murder is solved. The motel's identity has also not been publicly disclosed by the deconstructing Dahlia team. The filmmakers say they know who killed Elizabeth. They say they know the murder weapon. They say the evidence points overwhelmingly toward this room. Those are extraordinary claims, but extraordinary claims and a solved homicide are not the same thing. The difference is verification. The team says another obstacle remains: Elizabeth Short's complete, unredacted autopsy report. The filmmakers and a foundation supporting their investigation have been pushing for additional case material to be released. They argue those records could allow them to compare their findings against details from Elizabeth's death that were never made completely public. The LAPD has not publicly endorsed the team's conclusions. So right now, we're left with two versions of this story. One says the mystery has finally been cracked. The other says we are looking at a promising but unverified lead in a case that has produced promising leads for nearly 8 decades. Only forensic evidence can tell us which one is true. Elizabeth Short was 22 years old when she died. For generations, her murder has been buried beneath suspects, confessions, books, movies, and theories. Now there may finally be something different: physical evidence, hidden behind the walls of a room that investigators say existed when she was killed. Maybe those walls preserved the answer for almost 80 years. Maybe they preserved evidence of something completely unrelated. Until the DNA results are known, we don't know. And that's where the Black Dahlia case stands today. Closer to an answer, perhaps, than it has been in decades. But still unsolved.